If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin. We're starting on page 172. If you look steadily into the unblinking blue, into that pinpoint at the center of the eye, you discover a bottomless cruelty, a viciousness cold and icy. In that eye, you do not exist, if you are lucky. If that eye, from its height, has been forced to notice you, if you do exist in that unbelievably frozen winter which lives behind that eye, you are marked, 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 like a man in a black overcoat, crawling, fleeing across the snow. The eye resents your presence in the landscape, cluttering up the view. Presently, the black overcoat will be still, turning red with blood, and the snow will be red, and the eye resents this too, blinks once, and causes more snow to fall, covering it all. Sometimes I was with Fonny when I crossed Belle's path. Sometimes I was alone. When I was with Fonny, the eyes looked straight ahead, into a freezing sun. When I was alone, the eyes clawed me like a cat's claws, raked me like a rake. These eyes look only into the eyes of the conquered victim. They cannot look into any other eyes. When Fonny was alone, the same thing happened. Belle's eyes swept over Fonny's black body with the unanswerable cruelty of lust, as though he had lit the blowtorch and had it aimed at Fonny's sex. When their paths crossed and I was there, Fonny looked straight at Belle. Belle looked straight ahead. I'm going to mess you up, boy, Belle's eyes said. No, you won't, said Fonny's eyes. I'm going to get my crap together and haul butt out of here. I was frightened because in the streets of the village, I realized that we were entirely alone. Nobody cared about us except us, or whoever loved us was not there. Belle spoke to me once. I was making it to Fonny's late from work. I was surprised to see him because I had got off the subway at 14th Street and 8th Avenue, and he was usually in the neighborhood of Bleecker and McDougal. I was huffing and puffing down the avenue, carrying a package of odds and ends I had lifted from the Jew. When I saw him walking slowly up the avenue toward me, for a minute I was frightened because my package, which had things like glue and staples and watercolors and paper and tacks and nails and pens, was hot. But he couldn't know that, and I already hated him too much to care. I walked toward him, he walked toward me. It was beginning to be dark, around 7:30. The streets were full, homeward men, leaning drunkards, fleeing women, Puerto Rican kids, junkies. Here came Belle. Can I carry that for you? I almost dropped it. In fact, I almost peed on myself. I looked into his eyes. No, I said, thanks very much, and I tried to keep moving, but he was standing in my way. I looked into his eyes again. This may have been the very first time I ever really looked into a white man's eyes. It stopped me. I stood still. It was not like looking into a man's eyes. It was like nothing I knew, and therefore it was very powerful. It was seduction which contained the promise of rape. It was rape which promised debasement and revenge on both sides. I wanted to get close to him, to enter into him, to open up that face and change it and destroy it, descend into the slime with him. Then we would both be free. I could almost hear the singing. Well, he said in a very low voice, you ain't got far to go. Sure wish I could carry it for you, though. I can still see us on that hurrying, crowded twilight. Avenue. Me with my package and my handbag, staring at him. He staring at me. I was suddenly his. A desolation entered me. which I had never felt before. I watched his eyes, his moist, boyish, despairing lips, and felt his sex stiffening against me. "I ain't a bad guy," he said. "Tell your friend. You ain't got to be afraid of me." "I'm not afraid," I said. "I'll tell him. Thanks." "Good night," he said. "Good night," I answered, and I hurried on my way. I never told Fonny about it. I couldn't. I blotted it out of my mind. I don't know if Belle ever spoke to Fonny. I doubt it. On the night that Fonny was arrested, Daniel was at the house. He was a little drunk. He was crying. He was talking again about his time in prison. He had seen 9 men rape one boy, and he had been raped. He would never, never, never again be the Daniel he had been. Fonny held him up just before he fell. I went to make the coffee, and then they came knocking at the door. Two, Zion. Fonny is working on the wood. It is a soft brown wood. It stands on his work table. He has decided to do a bust of me. The wall is covered with sketches. I am not there. His tools are on the table. He walks around the wood, terrified. He does not want to touch it. He knows that he must, but he does not want to defile the wood. He stares and stares, almost weeping. He wishes that the wood would speak to him. He is waiting for the wood to speak. Until it speaks, he cannot move. I am in prison somewhere in the silence of the wood, and so is he. He picks up a chisel, he puts it down. He lights a cigarette, sits down at his work stool, stares, picks up the chisel again. He puts it down, goes into the kitchen to pour himself a beer, comes back with the beer. Sits down on the stool again, stares at the wood. The wood stares back at him. "You jerk," says Fonny. He picks up the chisel again and approaches the waiting wood. He touches it very lightly with his hand. He caresses it. He listens. He puts the chisel teasingly against it. The chisel begins to move. Fonny begins and wakes up. He is in a cell by himself at the top of the prison. This is provisional. Soon he will be sent downstairs to a larger cell with other men. There is a toilet in the corner of the cell. It stinks. And Fonny stinks. He yawns, throwing his arms behind his head, and turns furiously on the narrow cot. He listens. He cannot tell what time it is, but it does not matter. The hours are all the same. The days are all the same. He looks at his shoes, which have no laces, on the floor beside the cot. He tries to give himself some reason for being here, some reason to move, or not to move. He knows that he must do something to keep himself from drowning in this place. And every day he tries, but he does not succeed. He can neither retreat into himself nor step out of himself. He is righteously suspended. He is still. He is still with fear. He rises and walks to the corner and pees. The toilet does not work very well. Soon it will overflow. He does not know what he can do about it. He is afraid, up here, alone. But he is also afraid of the moment when he will be moved downstairs with the others, whom he sees at mealtimes, who see him. He knows who they are. He has seen them all before. Were they to encounter each other outside, he would know what to say to them. Here, he knows nothing. He is dumb. He is absolutely terrified. Here, he is at everyone's mercy, and he is also at the mercy of this stone and steel. Outside, he is too young. Here, he realizes that he is young, very young, too young, and will be And will he grow old here? He stares through the small opening in the cell door into what he can see of the corridor. Everything is still and silent. He must be very early. It must be very early. He wonders if today is the day he will be taken to the showers. But he does not know what day it is. He cannot remember how long ago it was that he was taken to the showers. I'll ask somebody today, he thinks, and then I'll remember. I've got to make myself remember. I can't let myself go like this. He tries to remember everything he has ever read about life in prison. He can remember nothing. His mind is empty as a shell. Rings like a shell, with a meaningless sound, no questions, no answers, nothing. And he stinks. He yawns again. He scratches himself. He shivers. With a mighty effort, he stifles a scream, grabs the bars of the high window, and looks up into what he can see of the sky. The touch of the steel calms him a little. The cool, rough stone against his skin comforts him a little. He thinks of Frank, his father. He thinks of me. He wonders what we are doing now, at this very moment. He wonders what the whole world, his world, is doing without him. Why he has been left alone, here, perhaps to die. The sky is the color of steel. The heavy tears drip down Fonny's face, causing the stubble on his face to itch. He cannot muster his defenses because he can give himself no reason for being here. He lies back down on the cot. He has 5 cigarettes left. He knows that I will bring him cigarettes this evening. He lights a cigarette, staring up at the pipes on the ceiling. He shakes. He tries to put his mind at ease. Just one more day. Don't sweat it. Be cool. He drags on the cigarette. His prick hardens. Absently, he strokes it. Through his shorts, it is his only friend. He clenches his teeth and resists, but he is young and he is lonely. He is alone. He strokes himself gently as though in prayer, closing his eyes. His privates respond, burning, and Fonny sighs, dragging on the cigarette again. He pauses, but his hand will not be still, cannot be still. He catches his lower lip in his teeth, wishing, but the hand will not be still. He lifts himself out of his shorts and pulls the blanket up to his chin. The hand will not be still. It tightens, moving faster, and Fonny sinks and rises. Oh, he tries to think of no one. He tries not to think of me. He does not wish me to have any connection with this cell or this act. Oh, and he turns, rising, writhing, his belly beginning to shake. Oh, and the great tears gather behind his eyes. He does not want it to end. It must end. Oh, oh, oh. He drops his cigarette on the stone floor. He surrenders totally. He pretends that human arms are holding him. He moans. He nearly screams. His thickening, burning privates cause him to arch his back, and his limbs stiffen. Oh, he does not want it to end. It must end. He moans. It is unbelievable. His privates trickles and explodes all over his hand and his belly, and he sighs. After a long moment, he opens his eyes, and the cell comes crashing down on him, steel and stone making him know he is alone. He is brought down to see me at 6 o'clock. He remembers to pick up the phone. Hey, and he grins. How you doing, baby? Tell me something. You know I ain't got nothing to tell you. How you? He kisses the glass. I kiss the glass. But he does not look well. Hayward's coming to see you tomorrow morning. He thinks he's got a date fixed for the trial. For when? Soon, very soon. What do you mean by soon? Tomorrow, next month, next year? I would tell you, Fonny, if I didn't know it was soon. Would I? And Hayward told me I could tell you. Before the baby gets here? Oh, yes, before the baby gets here. When is it due? Soon. His face changes then, and he laughs. He makes a mock menacing gesture with one fist. How is it, the baby? Alive and kicking, believe me. Whipping your butt, huh? He laughs again. Old Tish. And again his face changes. Another light comes into it. He is very beautiful. You seen Frank? Yes, he's been doing a lot of overtime. He'll be here tomorrow. He coming with you? No, he's coming with Hayward in the morning. How is he? He's fine, baby. And my two funky sisters? They're like they've always been. Not married yet? No, Fonny, not yet.